I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, and Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fists. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. But she said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts.
All right, guys, welcome to the Nerdvolution podcast. I am your host, Todd Lancaster, with my co-host, Drew Kirksky. And we have our very special guest, Mr. Nikhil Clayton. Welcome.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right. So we were just curious, where are you from, Nikhil?
Originally, basically Texas.
Nice.
Nice.
Right? Not that far from either of us.
Where are you guys from?
Wyoming,
Go ahead, Todd.
and Drew's from Missouri.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how old are you?
I'm 23.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, I just turned 22 yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Happy-
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I'm 24 years old, so it's pretty nice.
All right. So what made Gambit your favorite X-Men character, if you mind us asking?
Honestly, when I was a kid, he was just a really cool one, and I like his whole shtick, his whole vibe. I like that he's Cajun. Not a lot of characters that are Cajun. It was a very unique perspective. And then as I got older and I read more of him, I liked his whole sort of driving motivation is that he is a person who very much wants validation that he is a good person, even though he's not always doing the best of things. And I found that very relatable. So
Yeah. No,
Sure.
So what got you into comics?
um really, I know I was reading comics before the MCU because I remember not knowing who those characters were in my first comics, but really it was the MCU that got me fully involved. Starting back with like Iron Man, which came out when I was like 8, and then I just sort of became very obsessed with the movies, and then I became very obsessed with the world behind the movies. And then there was also the X-Men cartoons, Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men, that helped me get into the X-Men side.
Nice.
I remember enjoying those too. Those were
Same. What made you want to be in the film industry?
Again, honestly, the MCU, like I loved Iron Man and stuff so much. I got me very interested in superheroes and it got me very interested in movies. And I was more interested in movies for like a while. I kind of fell off of comic books after middle school and came back into it around in the middle of college. But for the middle part there, I was very interested in film and collecting iconic pieces of film and everything else like that. And I knew I wanted to one day make film. And my return to comic books in college helped me just understand that I really want to work in this very specific subset of film that might kind of be going away, it seems. So it seems like the time to do superhero movies may be passing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew, it is up to one of your questions now.
All right. So I have a couple things written down here. One of my main questions is, what do you like about DC or Marvel and the difference between the two universes?
I'm much more of a Marvel person. I heard there's an old saying that says the difference between Marvel and DC is Marvel tells the story of men becoming gods, and DC tells the story of God becoming men. Which I think it's a controversial term. I think it's generally true. It's also been said to be like Marvel is stories of ordinary people in extraordinary situations, and DC is the story of extraordinary people in ordinary situations, which is perhaps more truthful. But either way, I find Marvel's more interesting. I like seeing very flawed, very complex characters in elevated statuses than they really should be in. I think it's very interesting that there is no like moral good in the Marvel universe per se. There's almost every character has their own moral like point of view, their own worldview of what is right, and it causes a lot of conflict between them in a lot of stories. Whereas like DC, you have like Superman, and Superman's like just correct 99% of the time. But we don't. There's no real character like that in Marvel. Even Captain America or Spider-Man have done things that other characters don't find to be morally correct. And I find that whole world of Marvel to be really, really fascinating for these reasons. I do like some of DC. I love Batman. I love the Bat family in DC. I think those are great characters, great times. But I've not explored the universe as much. Also, just because I can't stand the constant rewriting of the universe that DC does. Marvel,
100%.
I very much I love when the fact that Marvel, you can look back and every character has one not consistent, but has one alleged solid arc across their publication, and that this is like the story of them, and everything that's happened, for better or for worse, is a part of that story. DC is like every 10 years, they're like, okay, none of that happened. We're going again. And I found it hard to get invested as long as they keep doing it at this level. They keep it's much faster, I feel like, these days than it used to be. If they could take a good 20 years in between reboots, I would be more fine. But yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but that's what I like about Marvel versus DC.
I also feel like in the part of it that they don't really have a timeline. They bounce around a lot. I wish DC would have kind of a building timeline like the MCU did, kind of.
Yeah.
I would say, but DC, I will say I like that DC is more willing to just print things that are interesting. Like if they have a story, they'll just make it and they won't worry so much about fitting it into the context of the larger continuity. Marvel doesn't really do that, so I do appreciate it, and it'll be fine. The books are much more compact sometimes.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Oh yeah, so would I. So my next question would be, what got you into cosplay and why?
Welcome into cosplay. I wouldn't say I'm exceptionally into cosplay. I would like to get more involved. I just don't have the money or the resources or the skill to really do cosplay. But I used to, when I started out on TikTok, I put up an Amazon wish list of just random bits of the Gambit costume, and I ended up getting all of them bought. So then I felt like I should be wearing my Gambit costume, and I liked wearing it, and I liked making a few videos with it. And then I went to a Comic-Con, and everyone called me Gambit, and that was very fun. And so I just kind of kept wearing it to Comic-Cons. I don't think I do any other cosplays. So
You're like, it's just Gambit. Gambit's enough. I'm okay.
yeah.
All right. So, do you have any advice for future cosplayers or video editors that would help enhance their experience?
I guess just like make what you can make. I said I'm not huge in the cosplay scene, but to my understanding, it's just you dress, you make the costume, and then you engage in the community, and it's generally a very uplifting community. I have lots of friends in the cosplay community. They all are there to help you. There's a whole like background community about like how to get certain effects done and everything like that. For video editing, basically just keep making things and then keep editing things until someone takes note. That would be my only advice.
All
All right.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. What made you want to join TikTok?
What made me join TikTok?
Yeah.
A couple things. So mainly, it was over COVID, but my school has come back to being not in person, but doing online schooling. But I was back in DC, which is where I was going to school, and at my apartment. And then because of the way that everyone was afraid of like flying and stuff for COVID, they didn't think it was worthy to do separate Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks. So basically, all classes. Oh, so I guess we were in person. Never mind. We were in person, but all classes turned online from the week before Thanksgiving through the end of the semester, where we would break for Christmas. But I didn't really want to go home. I liked being in DC, and I liked studying for finals and stuff in my apartment. So all my roommates, I had three roommates, they all left, went home to do online schooling, and I stayed. And I kind of went insane living on my own in somewhat quarantine for 3 weeks while everyone I knew was away. And I needed a place to kind of vent about things and talk as if I was talking to people. And that was TikTok. And then I came back in January, and my TikTok was very, very small. But I came back in January and I had made an error because I'd brought my car up to school with me, and I had thought that parking was going to cost me $70 for some reason, but it actually cost me $70 a month, which means I needed to raise about $300 very quickly. And my friends and I sat around thinking of ways I could do that. And the least far-fetched one was try and make TikTok actually work, and get $300 off of that. And then I did. And I've made a lot more money than $300 now. So
And
very
you're still making
successful.
more money. I do. It's your next question, so you do know.
Alrighty, so out of all the universes out there, what would be your most anticipated crossover in a comic book if you could have any?
If I could have any. I don't know. I'd like to see the Pirates of the Caribbean move to a different medium. I like the movies. I liked some of the books that came out when I was a kid, but I think that's a bigger opportunity for a franchise than has been used. And if we could see that and get a line of comics that could eventually cross over with, I don't know, something like Marvel or DC, I think I'd be very happy to see that. I love that world.
Actually, that sounds pretty awesome, actually. Yeah.
Hey, Drew, I think we know the next cosplay for Nikhil here. He has to go as Jack Sparrow.
Oh,
Hey.
I was Jack Sparrow for Halloween when I was like 11. That was the last time I tried.
But now you got the face for it. You can go for it for real now instead of using a fake one. What is it like working for Marvel?
Working for Marvel is great. I've worked for Marvel in a couple different capacities now. I did work for them via TikTok. I made content for their page. I made content on my page to advertise for them. Both of those were great experiences. And then I worked for them for my day job as a VFX PA, which was fantastic. It was for Loki season 2, and it was a lot of getting lunches and crafty and stuff like that. But also, I got to sit in the room, and I was in charge of running the screening room. So I sat in the back and I played all the clips, and all of the big fancy people would come in and watch the clips and give their notes and their thoughts about the season. And I got to listen to all the notes and all the meetings, and it was a very eye-opening time.
All right, you actually answered my next question. I was about to ask, what was it like working on Loki season 2?
Well, yeah, that's pretty good.
Did you?
I got a lot of downtime. I read a lot of comics while I was there. I had planned to read a lot more of a variety of comics, but then the first day I was reading some, Kevin Feige noticed me and said that, and asked me what I was reading, and so I sort of decided to never read anything other than Marvel. So I read a lot of Marvel comics while I was sitting around, and then I got to sit in those meetings and get to watch basically the whole show 1,000 times, including the parts that they cut out. So it's very interesting that it's out for the whole world to see what it became.
All right. Just to add up on that one a little bit, did you actually get to meet like Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston at all?
No, I didn't get to meet any of the actors. I was in post production, so they'd already come and done their thing. And this was part of like the news just broke about how Marvel's changing the way they're approaching TV. Our show was kind of already part of that. They were calling it New Marvel. So there was much less, like we weren't going to do any reshoots, and we weren't going to do any like retooling of the show, which Marvel's kind of famous for doing at the late stages. So there was no need for the actors to come back, which is it worked out because the actors eventually went on strike, and that would have been bad.
Yeah,
But
that's fair. If you could play anybody in Marvel or DC besides Gambit, who would it be?
if I could play anybody in Marvel or DC,
Yeah, besides Gambit.
For Marvel, a lot of things, honestly. I I would like to play like a weird villain, I think. Really neither. If I could play like Arcade, that'd be fun. If I could play Orb, the guy with the big eyeball for a head.
Yeah.
I once joked online that that was the person I most wanted to play, not even Gambit, which was mainly a joke because it was just a guy with a big eyeball head. But I wouldn't mind doing it if someone ever reached out. Um, but yeah, I think Arcade would be the most fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would like to see him in the MCU at least at some point. What made you get into doing skits, and which one is your favorite by far?
Skits?
Yes.
Honestly, skits were a fiscal sort of switch that I did because I started just kind of ranting about things and people didn't like those as much. And then I made a skit that the first IRS skit, and that did really well. And so I made a bunch more IRS skits, and those all did really well. And then I just kept doing that. And then I was like, maybe I could just be a skit person now. And then I was lucky enough, I had a lot of series that were hit off back to back to back. Because I did the IRS thing, and then I made a little jokey joke about aliens, and that became a whole thing. And then I made the Addams Family in Gotham, which became a whole thing. And then I kept doing that um, until about 2 years ago. I don't think I've had a successful skit in series in 2 years, but I think of every series I've ever made, my favorite is probably Adams in Gotham, just because I think that was the one that meant the most to people, and I get most people come up to me and say how much they liked it and enjoyed it, and it was the most I got to feel like I was actually like writing comedy because I want to be a writer by trade and I want to write comedy, and that was the one that felt like I actually was playing with these characters and gonna do whatever I wanted.
All right.
I
That's
like the IRS series a lot too, but I also don't know anything about taxes, so a lot of it was me really flying by the seat of my pants and hoping that no one else knew anything about taxes either.
yeah. The one that I'm surprised that for the IRS one, the one I'm surprised you have yet to make is Gambit meets Baker.
Have I never done Gambit? That seems
No.
strange. That seems very strange. I don't know how
I
I
know.
lived through the
Like, I
cracks.
was looking for it like the other day just because I wanted to watch one to see if you actually did it. And I even looked it up off of my laptop, which is where I'm, doing the call from. And I cannot find it whatsoever.
Well, I kind of screwed myself because I did one for Storm because it was all user generated originally. It was just people commenting things, and I would use the comment in the skit. But I did one for Storm, and I sort of set up the precedent that because they lived on Krakoa now, uh, mutants couldn't be taxed. And
Yeah.
then I didn't worry about it until I tried to make another video, and everyone was reminding me of my own lore, and I had to sort of remember that I guess I had lore that had to be consistent in this world.
Oh yeah.
So I wrote myself into a corner, and I had to come up with like a bunch of other complicated reasons why I could go back to taxing people.
Well,
Um,
if you do remember, Gambit does own a club in New Orleans. So therefore, you can make a skit about that where he has to pay taxes on that.
he owns a club.
Yeah.
What club does he own?
I don't remember the name, but last I remember reading is he owned because he took it over from a mafia enforcer, and now it's his like poker club.
What? I didn't know
Yeah,
about this. This is
yeah.
crazy. Uh, it is established that Gambit has like a house in New Orleans. It's very important for when he first came out. That it's like this very nice like gothic house that he owns that he wants to like settle down in one day. And I'm very curious why it's not been addressed since the 90s.
Right.
But I would love to figure out what's happened to that house. And like now that he has settled down and has a wife, and Krakoa seems to be going away, if they will move into the Gambit house, or
Yes.
if it'll just continue to just be on the French Quarter
Yeah.
unoccupied.
But hey, if you need to, you can also make a skit where he has to pay taxes on that.
It's true.
So on the same trail of the X-Men, what do you think is going to happen when they're finally introduced in the MCU? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I don't really know, to be honest. I feel like X-Men 97 is going to play a role somehow. I think Deadpool is going to answer a lot of questions for how it'll work. I don't think it'll be the same people. A lot of people getting excited about Deadpool and saying that because X, Y, and Z are returning, that means that the other movies are going to be canon or that those actors are going to keep portraying the roles. I don't think that is what's going to happen. I think Deadpool 3 is going to be a sort of goodbye to that universe. Perhaps a very violent goodbye, but I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it.
That's fair. Drew, it is one of your questions now, by the way.
All right, this is my last question for you. What is your best advice to avoid toxic people in the social media genre?
You just gotta ignore them, basically. When you have someone who's very toxic, they're gonna like to start a flame war with you. And I've had my fair share of people who like at me in videos that are just like saying I'm a terrible person. And if you just don't engage, everyone kind of moves on pretty quickly. And you have to accept that not everyone's gonna like you. There are people out there. Once you like make work, then you have to accept that people are gonna evaluate the work, and you're not gonna be everyone's vibe. So some people like me, other people don't like me. That's just how it is.
Yeah, that is fair.
Thank you.
All right. So since you work for Marvel, are you not allowed to talk about DC media on your social media page as they are competitors, or what's the case with that?
Oh yeah, when I worked as Marvel for the TikTok stuff, there was a clause about not doing paid promotion for competing sites within like 30 days, but that's long since expired. Working for Marvel for my day job didn't affect my TikTok really at all, other than I could no longer talk about the MCU, which is why I switched more into full on just comic stuff because even if I don't know anything, which I really don't know anything about what the MCU is planning, if I were to give my theories or stuff about where I thought certain projects were going on that was in development while I was there, it could seem as if I was giving out privileged information, especially if my theory was right. Like if for Secret Invasion, I was like, oh, I think what's his face is going to become the Super Skrull. And then that happened. People could be like, well, clearly you just knew about this because you were in the room where it was happening.
Yeah.
So I stopped talking about the MCU basically, and then obviously I couldn't talk about Loki. I still can't talk about Loki. So it's almost all out, and then I'll be finally free of my burden.
Your torture.
Yeah.
All right. What was it like meeting Chris Claremont? Because
that was great. That was a wonderful experience. I'm not sure how much he liked me. I feel like we argued, and I didn't mean to argue with him, but it was a wonderful time. He told me how to pronounce Hod's name. It's not Chod, like anyone on Earth would have
or
assumed.
Chode, like
Yeah.
you thought.
And yeah, that was nice. He does not seem to be a fan of Rogue and Gambit as a married couple, and he does not like the character Vulcan. These are the things I've learned of him.
Okay. I'm curious why he doesn't like Rogan Gambit.
Well, Gambit's sort of his last big creation that he got to make before he got pushed off the books.
Yeah.
And Rogue and Gambit's not really his. And I do think his idea of Gambit is a lot seedier and darker and more villainous than the one that comes out throughout real life. And I don't think that he views Gambit as a person who should be monogamous. I honestly don't know if he views many people as if they should be monogamous, but
yeah, no, that's fair. Favorite project that is coming out or that is coming up, and are you a part of any new projects that you could give us a little sneak peek of?
no, I'm unemployed. I just do TikTok.
Are you ready for Marvel now, Ray?
No, I mean the strikes kind of shut down all of Hollywood, so
That's
I
fair.
don't have a job.
The last I checked, the strike was over.
Well, the writers one is. The actors
Okay.
are the one that are.
Okay, the actor strike is still going on. That's fair. I forgot about that one. How can fans contact you?
I have an email in my bio, and I can also be reached on Instagram, like you did.
All right, sweet. Anything you want to say to the viewers or listeners before we go?
No, just thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Happy to have you.
Thank you for joining us.
I hope we can have you again on here sometime. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know Drew did. I'm pretty sure I did. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Absolutely.
All right, and I hope we can have you on again sometime.
Sure.
All right.
And thank
See
you.
guys.
Yep. Bye.
Of course.
Bye.
All right, guys. That is the end of the No Pollution Podcast, episode 2. Drew, what'd you think?
I'm still freaking out. That is like
That
that
was
is like a little rock star right there, you know?
oh yeah.
He's
One
right
of the
bigger
reasons we got
names.
into the cosplaying and one of the main reasons that we did some of the skits we did for TikTok.
I mean, I wish I could have told him this while he was still on the screen, but his gambit is the reason that I got my Cyclops costume.
Really?
The Cyclops I got was because of him.
Oh, okay,
He
that's awesome.
is a big.
Well, hey, he told
So-
you he said that you can message him on Instagram. You can message him there and let him know.
It's going to be really incredible continuing this journey on this podcast, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Me too. Well, that's all we got. We'll see you all in the next video, and hope you enjoyed.
All right, peace.
Cause you're a sky full of stars.